name is Suzee Miller, and I do feng shui consulting for homes and businesses. And so this is really a nice opportunity to work with plants, indoor plants. Again, there's always a different perspective, and I think it's great to have more than one. From a feng shui perspective, we don't like to see too many plants in an environment. So maybe 1 per 100 square foot would be considered excessive for us from a feng shui perspective. And what feng shui means is, the literal translation is wind and water. So it's bringing in the elements, like Alex mentioned, you don't want to put a plant by an entrance door because of the wind, the air flowing. It does affect a plant, and we never recommend that. And then water, of course, our plants need water to survive, so even at the plant level or the molecular level, it's all about wind and water. As human beings, our bodies are 100% feng shui, because feng means wind and shui is water. And without wind, we would die within minutes. Without water, we die within days. So we're very much like the plant kingdom. And the universe is all about vibration. Some vibration is very low, or what we would call a dense vibration, like this table. It vibrates very, very low. And so that vibration is so low, we can actually see it. But we can't see the vibration of wind, and we can't see the vibration of electricity, or EMF waves, or microwaves, television waves that are flying through this environment as we speak. And so plants are a great way. They love to absorb what we call the shui that Wayne was pointing out about the toxins in the environment, and the negative energy or the off-gassing that we get from carpets and from fabric and upholstery in window coverings. These plants are fabulous for purifying the environment. So we do want to see a certain degree of plant life in the home, but to the extent of maybe 1 per 100 from solely from a feng shui perspective, we would probably say half of that is better. And then when we get into our mountain communities, like we are here, so many of our homes in the mountains are wood. Okay, we have wood siding, wood floors. So in front of you, I gave you a little diagram. In feng shui or feng shui, there are 5 elements we try to balance within a home environment or work environment. And that is fire, earth, metal, water, wood, and fire. So fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And in a productive cycle, we want to see this. So when we bring in plants, for example, into a home environment, we're bringing in another wood element. So in the mountains, when we have so many wood beams and we have wood floors, wood cabinets, wood furniture, we may even want to minimize the amount of the wood plant, the element plant, because it is the wood element, so that we don't create an environment that's out of balance. So with feng shui, what we're trying to do is to balance these elements. Now, what we can do with plants, and you brought all green plants today, but there are some wonderful plants, aren't there, that have orange leaves and red leaves and other kind of vibrant colors, which would bring in the fire element really, really nice. When you get into your deeper greens like this, we can almost get that into a watery element, because the darker we go with the plant, if we get into the blues or the purples, and we have some plants that have actual purple flowers or purple vines, that is the water element. So we can still have that 1 plant per 100 square foot as long as we keep in mind that we want to see fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. Now, earth colored plants would be anything that's yellow or very, very light pastel in color. So sometimes that comes in a flower, you know, like a pink flower, a yellow flower, anything that bloom a yellow would be a lovely earth element to bring in. And leaves. We have some plants that actually have the golden yellow leaf. So fire elements in plants are really easy. Actually, I agree on this. In feng shui, this happens to be a weak pointed arrow, but we don't like to see very thorny or pointed element plants in an environment, because they shoot out shui like arrows at us. So, but it happens to be the pointier of the plant, if it stood straight up, it is a fire element plant. So you can bring the element fire in by just having a plant that grows up. You wouldn't want to have it in a bedroom, you wouldn't want to have it in an entrance way, but it's another way. So either the color red or something that is triangular or pointed or jagged is considered the wood, the fire element. Where we would place something like that, let's say like a cactus, would be like on a windowsill, where we would be afraid of somebody violating our house or entering, maybe breaking into a kitchen window. So maybe if you had a kitchen window, that would be an appropriate place to add a thorny plant. Other than that, we want to keep to the softer elements. When we come to metal, metal is the color white or the color gold or a pastel color if it's a plant. So we can pick that out too in an appropriate color. There are some plants, like this has a lot of white in it. From a feng shui perspective, we don't like droopy things in our environment. Anything that droops means that our health can droop, our finances can droop, our life force can droop. Because we all live in a pulsating environment where everything is energy, we can never destroy energy. Even with Wayne's plant that's dying, there's still some life force in that plant. So that plant will return to the earth and fertilize for other plants to grow. So we can never ever destroy energy, whether it's in the human form or the plant life form, but it can reorganize itself into a different consistency. So with plants, I'll mention the pothos. I think this is a pothos, right?
That's right.
Pothos is a great plant up here. I have a couple of them. They're easy to maintain, and I love your idea of cutting off. So important. We cut off only because we want the growth to go up. When we eat whole foods, for example, natural organic fruits and vegetables and the wheats, we grow tall and we stay thin. When we eat our heavier, denser foods like steak and potatoes and heavier things, we get heavier. So when we have plants that grow up, that means that the opportunity for us is to grow healthy symbolically at the same time. And if it's finances, for example, plants, where it's appropriate to have like 3 plants in one room would be in an office. If you have a decent sized office, let's say 100 square feet, the most appropriate places to have your plants would be in the south corner, the southeast, or the east section of your office. They're all about prosperity and good fortune, and plants seem to do exceptionally well in those environments. So things that grow up like this is great. I don't know the name, Alex, for the plant that I love so much, but I know it by the word Taiwanese money tree. Are you familiar with that plant? It has a very glassy green leaf. It looks like you just polished it every day.
Okay.
And they grow.
Is it like the shape of a hand, like a 5?
No, it's a long stem, and it has a lot of little leaves that come out.
Okay.
And it's very green. And they're bringing it in from the Orient now, and I only know it by it being called a Taiwanese money tree. They do very well up here. They can live with little water or a lot of water, but they're very glassy, very green, almost like a succulent.
A twisty stalk?
No.
Because she showed me something like that. You called it a money tree.
Well, there was one that was braided.
Braided money tree, the bamboo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
What is the botanical name? But they call it an Asian good luck tree.
Right. It's a money tree.
But it's more of a where they cut it off and then it comes up. It almost looks like a chaflera or a marijuana leaf almost.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
very auspicious. So from a feng shui perspective, bamboo is the most auspicious plant to put in your home. My neighbor here said, "You're crazy, you'll never grow bamboo." I have bamboo stalks about 2.5, 3 feet in height. They're doing great. They just love to be in water, and you do nothing. You just let them
You
grow.
have them outdoor?
Indoors.
Oh,
indoors.
Yeah, okay.
I actually have bamboo plants outdoors as well, and it's the first time I've lived in the mountains during a winter, and I didn't realize that bamboo stays green all year long. I mean, they don't lose their leaves or anything unless they don't get water. So they're green and it's full. But I'm talking about what we call the lucky bamboo stalks, and you can put those in a home, and what do they represent? Growth, prosperity, good fortune, a very likable plant. In feng shui, we like things that grow high, so I love your idea of keeping these trimmed at all times. Places where we don't advise more than one plant, or maybe not even a plant, would be in the master bedroom or the children's bedrooms, because plants do give off carbon dioxide at night, and even in hospitals you'll find that nurses will take green growing plants, if there's more than 2 in a room, out at night so that the people can breathe better during the evening. So not too many green plants in a bedroom where you sleep. One would be appropriate, more than that would be probably difficult on the human body for the energy. We use a lot of orchids in feng shui. They represent money, prosperity. Feng shui has to do with the Chinese art of placement, and of course the Chinese, there's a tendency to be a little bit on the superstitious side, you know, what's like a money tree, lucky bamboo stalks, but you have to look at the Asian cultures around the world, and they're very, very wealthy. So they may know something that we don't know yet, but the beauty is they grow up towards the sun. Anything that grows up towards the sun, even in an environment like this, will do very well. And so for other rooms, for the placement, we like to put plants where there's a pointed edge in a home. So if you have a very severe pointed edge on a countertop or a piece of furniture, an appropriate placement for a plant would be at the edge or on top of it, drooping just a little bit to soften that edge, so that energy doesn't shoot too fast, move too fast at a person or within an environment. It's very interesting, you mentioned no plants at the door. I had a client once, on the outside, they had a ficus tree growing at the outside of their front door, and I feng shuied this home every year. And one year, the last time I was there, the plant had grown so big, and they didn't cut back the leaves, and the earth was popping up out of the pot, exactly what you said. So I said, you know, we need to move this plant at least 4 or 5 inches away from your door, because the belief is in feng shui, your door is where all opportunities and blessings and good fortune will enter your life. So I said, let's move this away because you're choking the mouth of qi, the door of opportunity. And that night they moved the plant just literally 4 or 5 inches. The husband came home. They moved it 4 or 5 inches. Now they were in a cul-de-sac. They were the first home in this cul-de-sac location. They called me the next day. When they woke up in the morning the next day by just moving this big pot, and it was a pretty big pot, a pretty big ficus tree, just 4 or 5 inches away from the door, their hardware, their brass hardware door handle literally fell off and was on the front porch. They had a gate that was about 3 feet from this potted plant, and the gate, the hinges fell off the gate, and the gate was on the ground. It was like the most shocking thing that they had ever seen. But what had happened was, as Alex mentioned, plants do not want to be disturbed. They want the same lighting, the same airflow, and so the more consistent you can keep your plants in an area. So in a cul-de-sac, energy races very fast in a cul-de-sac, and then gets very chaotic, starts to bounce. Well, the energy in this cul-de-sac had been moving in a direction for all the years that they had lived there. The minute they moved this one pot 4 inches, and you can think about it, it's very difficult for hardware, a front door handle to literally fall off, or a gate hinge to break. But that's how powerful energy is. So that's the invisible wind that we call in feng shui, that we can't see, but it's always forever moving in, around, and through us. As we sit, as we work, as we sleep, as we stand, as we listen, energy is bouncing in and around us. So what we want to do is create softness, and the plants that Alex has displayed are wonderful. They all create softness and gentleness. So as far as energy goes, do try to avoid droopy plants or plants with thorns or points within an environment, unless it's for protection. If you want to keep a vandal out, then it'd be appropriate. These smaller plants are great, really healthy succulents. Jade Plant is very auspicious to the Asian culture. So jades actually grow indoors and outdoors quite nicely. And it's amazing here in the mountains, if you keep your temperature right, I don't think there's a plant you can't grow inside of a house. It's when you just ignore your plant, or you don't honor it with the right size pot, the right size, fertilizer or care, that it becomes a problem. So what we're trying to always do is harmonize an environment to create peace, harmony, and beauty, grace and beauty. And of course, plants and flowers do that better than anything that I know about in an environment. As far as children's room, if there's a husband and wife that would like to have a child, that's one room you would not want to plant or place a green plant, or flowers, not even flowers. But the Asians believe you should actually offer organic fruits, which is very interesting. Tangerines, kumquats, loquats, and lemons being the best fruit to place in a room if you would like to bring in or conceive a baby, a child in a home. Flowers, abundant colors of flowers, we put in what we call the wealth block in a home. But as far as green-growing plants, they can go in almost any room, predominantly in a business, in an office, within your home. And I think when you were mentioning, Wayne, one of the most toxic things that is happening today, I know you mentioned to the elderly or people that have health challenges in their life, but about 60 to 70% of the working force today are entrepreneurs that are working from home-based offices. So people like myself who consult by phone across the United States and Canada and around the world, I'm constantly in that house. So the entrepreneur now, or the young business person, spending so much time at a computer, which is also emitting radiation, it's very appropriate then to have the 2 or 3 plants in that area to absorb that qi and to oxygenate the room during the daytime. At night, if you're not there, or if you're working at night, then you can remove one of the plants. So I hope that brings a little bit of a perspective on feng shui and plants and on indoor. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Susie. You mentioned the fire element, but you also mentioned the water element.
Yes.
As it relates to the wood. What's the best element to offset so much wood that we have?
Fire or metal. So we can take this, and I'm happy to go over this with you. I can show you the reductive cycle on this. Fire is at the top, and you can kind of see like a little arrow. Fire dies out and it creates ash. It creates the next element, which is earth. So ash becomes earth. And earth is where all the ores come from. So earth creates metal in a productive cycle, and then metal in a vapor or liquid state becomes like water. And water feeds wood, and then wood fuels fire. So this is what we call the productive cycle. But that's a very good question. We don't want to add too much water in an environment that has a lot of wood, okay? Because then we're going to be making more of this element, okay? Metaphorically speaking and energetically speaking. So we do it 2 ways. We can reduce it by going counterclockwise. So if you have too much wood in an environment, you add fire. Too much water in an environment, you add wood. Too much metal, you add water. Too much earth, you add metal. Metal will deplete the earth of the ores, right? Earth will put out fire, so you can throw earth on fire. And then, so you go counterclockwise. Too much wood, we burn it with fire. Too much water, suck it up with wood. Now, if that's not enough, when we get into a really over-dominant element environment. Now, for example, Lou and Jeff and Eddie, they painted the ceiling black. So is this a wood element or a water element? They actually created now a water element because to the eye, the color water is blue, black, navy blue, any shade of blue, or deep purple. So this actually helped to bring this environment into balance. We have earth in the drywall, so if you have drywall in your home, you never have to add the earth element. There's usually plenty. Or if you have tile, granite, any kind of ceramic or used brick even is the earth element. So now we have a nice combination of water here, wood on the floor, earth there, She's brought in metal with some features here, metal on the lights. We could probably use a bit more. What is the element that is actually missing in here? Fire. Okay, so they brought it in with lights, so lights can add fire, but visually we'd want to see fire. So we could add more fire here, Lou. Boom. So pop.
Yeah, I kind of tried to keep some of the fall colors there, and unfortunately had the green bulbs, so those weren't purchased for this.
Right.
But my thought would be a red or an orange.
But actually,
would
this
be
is a
better.
fire element right here. The gold
Yeah.
is considered fire. And the fact that you have the lights is fire. But if the lights were not on today, and we came into this room, the missing element is fire. You actually could paint this one wall here, or the back wall over there, rust, or, I know you're more into the rust or the tomato type reds, but it would be great to bring in an accent color, and you can do it that way. You can do it with art, you can do it with decor, red, a little bit more fire in here. So we have water, we have earth, we don't have enough metal, we could still add more metal in this to cut. So we could add red carpet, number one, which would be fire to burn off some of this wood, or red tablecloth, or checkers, or red candles, red potpourri, red tomatoes, red apples, fire. Or red candles, or like I said, the red potpourri will bring the smell in. But elementally speaking, this has really come into balance, and as long as we have the lights on, we have fire. And so be careful when the lights are off, that's all. As far as seeing a fountain, let's say in an environment, like a water feature, you could definitely do that. But again, in your mountain environment, when you guys live in so many wood cabins, where there's a predominance of wood beams and things like this, be very careful on overdoing the plants and overdoing the water element that would feed the wood. So when we go into what we call the reductive cycle to reduce the wood, we would add fire. But if we really want to destroy the wood, we add metal. Okay? So what we would do then is go into a destructive cycle, and that would be, it would look like this. Metal chops wood, wood sucks the nutrients from the earth, earth dams water, and water puts out fire. That's the destructive cycle. So a lot of times when we get into an environment that's out of balance elementally in one element or another, it will affect us. We won't know why we don't feel good, or why we feel edgy, or why we can't breathe, or why we can't get comfortable, why we can't sleep. It's because usually one or more of the 5 elements is either out of balance, missing altogether, or totally overdominant. And so we want to take care of that. So plants are wonderful. Use them by color as well as by greenery, and to balance your environment. And they'll bring you joy, peace, and harmony. And again, use it to cut what we call shachi, heavy corners, tight corners, sharp corners, edges, and let's say we have a long hallway, for example, is a perfect place to put a plant on the floor so that we can get the chi, the energy, to move around, because energy likes to float, it likes to meander. When it meanders like a stream, a gentle stream, our lives become very peaceful and very comforting. When energy moves too fast in a hallway, if we have a long hallway in a house or in a structure, chi, or energy, life force energy, moves too fast. We can't see it with our visible eye, but we can't discount wind, because we can see the trees blow, we can feel our hair blow, but it's not visible. It's like gravity. We can't discount gravity, or we wouldn't be sitting in these chairs. We'd be on the ceiling, right? So it's a living environment, from every aspect, from material items to, which would be tables, telephones, chairs, to trees, to these magnificent trees and rocks. Everything is pulsating and vibrating in this beautiful living universe. So enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
Pleasure.
One other thing I was